I am joined by Ian Rogers, the Chief Experience Officer at Ledger, and Pascal Gauthier, did I pronounce it properly?
Oui.
The Chief Executive Officer at Ledger. Is it confusing that you're both CEOs? Does that ever...
XO and CEO.
CXO, fair enough.
Experience starts with X.
We are
X gonna give it to
here
you.
at the Ledger Open, where you guys have made a really big announcement about the next gen of ledgers, the next product announcement. We are, of course, going to dive into that because that's sort of the news du jour. But I haven't talked to either of you. Pascal, you and I just met. Ian, you've been on the podcast before. But we haven't spoken since the FTX collapse. So I do got to know, I feel like the joke coming out of FTX, among many jokes and also some tears, was like, Ledger is the one company, crypto company to come out of FTX better and probably richer. Can you share any stats about what sales were like in the immediate aftermath of that implosion?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're the only one, but definitely, I think the FTX collapse has pushed back the narrative in the space. That is the right narrative of not your keys, not your coins. And so therefore, people turn to us for a safe haven. And so it has pushed like a lot of users in November, especially in November of the FTX collapse plus Black Friday. And so as a result, November was our all-time high in terms of months, in terms of week and in terms of day. So November has been fantastic and it's paved the way to the launch of Stax today. So yes.
And the joke I was making is that, a year ago, pitching self-custody, it's like trying to pitch people to be vegan. Like they know you're probably right.
Yeah.
It's probably healthier, but they're like, come on, man, have a hot dog. They're like, oh, come on, there's these great places like FTX where, it's really easy and the trading is cheap and, okay, and then now they've realized that they're, no one is too big to fail, right?
When it comes to NFTs, convenience often wins over security, despite scams being everywhere. Brands and artists have no other choice by complying with big marketplace terms and weak security because no good alternative exists. Which is what prompted Ledger to fix the problems of NFTs themselves and launch Ledger Market. The Ledger Market provides an end-to-end secure NFT experience for brands, artists, and users, enabling true ownership and control over NFT assets, from minting to storing. Ledger Market secures NFT projects via Ledger Enterprise, keeping you protected from phishing attacks and scams. And the market directs users to Ledger Live, where they can transact with a contract directly, giving clear signing details instead of blind signing and praying. Don't trust, verify with clear signing from Ledger Market. Stay up to date on the latest drops and marketplace updates by following Ledger on Twitter and joining the Ledger Open Discord, which is linked in the show notes below. BUENO is the NFT toolkit you need to launch your digital collectible on the blockchain without coding. Every step of the NFT creation process, from generation to mint, all taken care of by the BUENO NFT toolkit. With BUENO, you can load up your art layers, reorder the layers, tinker with rarity, everything you need to make your NFT project a reality. BUENO even allows you to mint your tokens on the blockchain with zero code and offers advanced minting logic like linking allow lists, airdropping tokens, and on-chain royalty configuration. As a part of their launchpad, you'll get access to forums to run surveys, email collection, and build your pre-sale list to make sure you are hooked into your own community. BUENO is full of powerful tools you need to build the most expressive NFT project possible. So go to bueno.art and start building your own collections today.
I also, again, obviously Stax will be the main focus here, but because I have you here, Pascal, something that I think is really striking about Ledger, and you feel it being here, is you guys have you're really building a brand identity that is real and kind of edgy, which I think is not necessarily intuitive or was not necessarily inevitable for like a hardware security company. Like you could have just been like, hey, here's the tech, it's the best out there, done. But you're really trying to build an identity and an art, et cetera, et cetera. Was that the plan for you from the beginning? Did you always know you needed this to have strong branding? And how important is that for you?
So sure, no, it was the plan. And the way they describe it is exactly right. Like engineering companies usually get it wrong because they're like, oh, here's the tech and then, go with it. But actually, this is not what an experience is. This is not what a product is. But then look at us, look at Ian, look at me. Like, who do you think is in charge of experience in this company?
I don't look at those rings.
Okay, well,
that was the kickoff. I was like, this was not just an Ian Rogers thing. This man had this from the beginning.
No, but it's true.
Business up top, rings on the.
But then Ian was me, and so Ian was a friend. We were in Paris. We were discussing this, and so we were discussing how do we get Ledger to a more consumer business to the masses? How do we make it cool? How do we bring it into culture? It was a great discussion that was with Ian, right at the beginning. I remember we're in my kitchen in Paris, we're drinking tequila and, having that discussion, which was, super interesting. And I knew that Ian was sort of cutting edge on these topics. He's been, his resume speaks for himself, but also he's had all these experiences. And I told Ian, look, with everything you've done in the past, Ledger will be your best job because it is a summary of everything you've done in the past, and now you can exploit it to the maximum. So
I think it's actually, first of all, you're right. The credit goes to Pascal because it was not my idea to have the title Chief Experience Officer. And what Pascal saw was that, when you buy an Apple phone, you're not buying a piece of hardware. You're buying into an ecosystem. You're buying an experience. And the complexity of the world of digital assets is similar, right? If buying a piece of Ledger hardware, it's not just a commodity, right? It's actually an experience that brings you a secure digital asset experience to your phone. Now, the bigger thing for me, I was super lucky because I dropped out of grad school in '95, went on tour with the Beastie Boys, like we talked about on your episode previously. But what I've been doing is sort of watching how does technology change culture. And working at LVMH for 5 years, I saw something really interesting. I saw this difference between creative directors or fashion designers. And I saw that there was this difference where some of them were about collection, and some of them were about connection. In other words, some of them, they made these clothes and then they were like, oh, somebody should sell those, right? And some of them were actually more, if you think about Virgil Abloh or Jonathan Anderson, these guys are much more about what is all of the culture that goes around me as a designer, the brand, the products, right? What am I a part of? Am I a part of the sort of skate culture? Am I a part of, Jonathan Anderson I love as an example because he's not streetwear like Virgil was. He works with photographers and ceramicists, but then he'll also work with Converse and Uniqlo. And I love that somebody could kind of have that and you see what it does, because I think the internet has fundamentally changed culture. I grew up in this mass culture world, and now, we live in a world of smaller communities. There is no such thing as crypto, right? There isn't even such a thing as NFTs. It's a bunch of little communities. There's a vibrant Bitcoin community. There's an Ethereum community. Look at the Solana community. Even after what's happened to them, they're hanging together as a community. It's pretty impressive, actually. And then you have, all of the different NFT communities. So I think that's the challenge. It's no different. I don't think it's any. I don't think what we're doing is any different than what Louis Vuitton is doing. And it's not because we make the same things they do. It's because we're making things that people love and people desire, and they fit into different places in culture. So then the question is how do you connect with all of those different people in all of those different places? The thing I love about Ledger is it's this horizontal. Same thing I loved about Winamp. At Winamp, I didn't tell you what music to listen to. I just enabled you. Winamp enabled you. Same thing with Ledger. Ledger is a platform that enables you to do anything you want with digital assets across the entire spectrum of digital assets securely. And so now you go, okay, well, what are all of the different communities that we touch? So.
You have a fashion background. It feels like you're leaning into Ledger almost as a fashion accessory. Now, maybe this is a little different with the Stax product, again, that we will get there in literally just a moment, but you have the chains that you give out pretty frequently for Ledger. It feels like by giving it this brand of cool and kind of edgy, it's almost like it has cachet to have a Ledger, to wear a Ledger. Is that very conscious?
I think it has cachet to say I understand the future and that the future involves digital assets. So I think, just like if you were the first person, to discover Nirvana, you wore that Nirvana shirt with pride, right? So, I think to me wearing, I love wearing a sweater with a squiggle on it.
That is a dope sweater.
And then I go into, a dinner party with, 15 people that are, between the ages of say 25 and 50. Right, and you sort of know who's who in the room, because some people are no idea, and some people are yo, is that what I think it is? And I think that's always what we do. To me, it's natural, because I remember being 15 years old, and you go to the mall wearing a Thrasher T-shirt, and someone will walk up to you and be like, hey man, you skate? Because in those days, in the 80s, if you had a Thrasher t-shirt on, you actually skated. Not the same thing today. For the audience, let me tell you, there's a difference between then and now. But I think it is the same thing, right? Like if you see somebody with that, then you know, oh yeah, that person knows what's up. Knows what's up.
Yeah, and I think it's a blue pill, red pill of metrics. I think you're in a system where Web 2 captures you into you being the product, and you own nothing and you belong to companies, and suddenly you have this opportunity to get back ownership on your digital life. And I think it's a very important moment. And so the red pill extracts you from the matrix. And so Ledger is the red pill. So when you take the red pill, you like to show that you're part of the rebels.
I was just realizing too, I've got an NFT on my watch. I have an Art Blocks friendship bracelet. I've got plenty of dead fellas here. I mean so yeah, I'm a little maybe.
You're red
maybe
pilled.
a little.
You're maroon pilled. Whatever's the next.
I've fallen off the cliff.
Whatever the next step is.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Stax. This is a really big deal, and you've of course built up this conference in many ways for this announcement. I feel like for folks who maybe haven't fully caught up, this is a credit card sized device now, not just a USB stick. It is touchscreen enabled. It has that consumer experience-y attention focus. I mean, of course, Tony Fadell, who's the creator of the iPod, is the creator of this device as well. It has the click of the stackability. So it's a huge step up in terms of user experience. Speak to the product in any way you want, but I'll also say, Ian, when you came on the podcast last, we talk about sort of the life cycle of tech and probably of everything. It's sort of bundling and unbundling. Mm-hmm. And we talked about hardware to our phones and how Ledger plays into that. Where do you see this new product within that evolution of bundling and unbundling in tech?
Well, this is clearly an evolution of our hardware wallet products. And, this is clearly a companion to your phone and computers. Hardware takes a lot of time to develop and take to market. And so you have billions of phones and billions of computers that are vastly unsecured today. And so you need Stax actually to secure them. So this is what we're doing now. The future of hardware is going to be built in the next, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, think about Apple in 1980 and think about Apple in, 2022. It's only 40 years, and yet, there is a vast difference between the Apple products of 40 years ago and the Apple products of now. But even the Apple products of 20 years ago and the Apple products of now. And so the time of hardware is a long time, but right now, it's all about Stax. It's all about there's billions of phones and billions of computers that are vastly unsecure, and yet you're going to ask them to do all these operations around Web 3, taking a lot of risk, and so you're going to need Stax to secure this.
I think the iPod is actually a great analogy, right? Because, I remember 1998 ripping compact discs at the DOS command line, right? And then there were other MP3 players. And then you had the iPod, and we think of the iPod as this overnight success, but the reality is that when the first iPod was released in 2002, Apple had less than 2% market share. It was a $10 stock. There was no iTunes for Windows. There was no iTunes Store. You had to have that evolution. So I think that there's something similar here. It's crypto is not brand new, but it's new to a lot of people. It's not super easy to use. I would argue it's easier to use than the internet was in 1995, but it's still not super easy to use. And like Pascal said, we're trying to do this digital asset ecosystem on devices which are fundamentally insecure. So adding, a simple to use device to that, kind of sunk investment of your phone or your computer, it's really natural because you have this new thing that you want to do for whatever reason. Whether it's crypto money, crypto products, crypto ticketing, crypto memberships, everything that might go into it, and ultimately identity. But with all of these things, like security is a must. But you've got this device, and there's 6.5 billion of them out there that are fundamentally insecure. So kind of adding that companion, like you added your iPod as a companion. Mm-hmm. And like Pascal said, over the next 5-10 years, you can imagine a rebundling, but we know how non-trivial that is. Also, I would say we're going to do it, right? And if you would have, no one would have bet on the iPod as the smartphone in 2002. Mm. You would have bet on Microsoft. You would have bet on Nokia. You wouldn't have bet on the iPod, right? And you'd have been wrong, right? So I think similarly, shrinking a Windows computer down into an iPod or a smartphone didn't work, and they tried, right? But I think and I think trying to go from a fundamentally insecure, do everything on the planet device into a secure one is probably not the path that'll work either. I think coming from security up is the right path, and that's what we'll do.
COINSHIFT is a leading treasury management and infrastructure platform for DAOs and crypto businesses that need to manage their treasury operations. Every crypto org needs to manage its treasury, and COINSHIFT offers a simple, flexible, and efficient multi-chain treasury management platform built on top of the highly secure Gnosis Safe. With COINSHIFT, your organization can go from primitive single-chain treasury management to expressive, flexible, and multi-chain treasury features, such as global user management, global contacts, proposal management, and many other features that can be shared across an entire organization, allowing users to save time and reduce operational burdens and gas costs. COINSHIFT even has data tools like account reporting across the 7 chains on which it operates. Used by industry powerhouses such as Uniswap Grants, Balancer, Consensus, and Masari, COINSHIFT is speeding up the coordination and efficiency of the organizations that use it. You have to keep up with the frontier, and COINSHIFT makes that easy. So sign up at coinshift.xyz/bankless. We're all bullish on NFTs, but gaining exposure to NFTs as a whole is difficult. How are you supposed to gain broad, generic exposure to an industry that's designed to be unique and non-fungible? CRYPTEX has the answer. CRYPTEX Finance produces synthetic tokens that lets you get exposure to areas of crypto that you otherwise couldn't. Their first product, TCAP, provides broad exposure to the total crypto market cap of all crypto assets. And their second product, JPEGZ, gives you the ability to get exposure to the entire NFT market. It's the first real NFT index token, so you don't have to go hunting for rares or finding under-the-radar opportunities. You just need to own some JPEGs, because JPEGZ tracks all NFT collections with real-time exposure. This is a first-of-a-kind product from CRYPTEX, who has worked in close collaboration with Chainlink for months to ensure accurate price feeds for true exposure. Live minting and trading of JPEGs will open at the end of Q4, so make sure you stay up to date with CRYPTEX Finance by joining their Discord, Telegram, or following them on Twitter.
So you were calling it the iPod moment. I think I had misinterpreted when you were on stage, and I think I heard iPhone moment, and my head went to, no, this is the iPod moment, and I was going to say a whole thing about that, but it turns out you were already there. It was already the iPod moment.
Not the only one that had that reaction.
Who heard iPhone? It's like, we're so habituated to iPhones. I think you probably did.
It said iPod on the
because you said iPod, and then Tony Fadell came out.
You repeated so much that I knew we were saying iPod, so
I can't
whatever
imagine.
you said, I heard iPod.
It's like, it's more on the consumer side, we're so habituated to iPhones now that we hear iPod and we almost think iPhone.
Yeah.
But totally, I think that feels like a really good analogy, and of course, it gets so exciting to think about where this goes, which of course I have to ask you, and I think we're having this conversation, and you guys are rolling this out in this moment where there's a lot of scrutiny on the Apple 30% charge, and I think there are questions about what is the future of blockchain on an Apple device when you have 30% being taken away on the NFT side. You've got Apple right now saying they're going to take 30% on gas fees on Coinbase. Like, are there consumer apps? Like, can you guys speak to how this becomes the iPhone potentially? Is this where you have gaming apps, consumer apps on there where you can bring your NFTs in really seamlessly, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. Well, I think, first of all, this is the day where we announce Stax. So
yeah, I know. I was thinking that. I'm like, I'm sorry, I know I'm asking about the future as you're talking about the cool product.
It was hard enough to bring it to market. Let's enjoy that moment. Pre-order your Stax, and don't think too much about what's coming next. Like this is an important next step. That being said, every web has its hardware revolution. Web 1 is PC, Web 2 is iPhone, Web 3 is Ledger. So this is part of the revolution. Get your Stax, enjoy the ride, and watch us.
Yeah, no, but I think that's exactly right. I mean, look, Web 1 was username and password. Web 2 was might as well have been who owns your ass, right? Log in with Facebook, log in with Twitter, log in with iCloud, log in with Google. Web 3 is connect your wallet, right? And ownership is the future of identity, right? And as Pascal said very well on stage, your ownership, right? Not ownership of you, right? But ownership. I love some of these examples, and I think that to be honest, I worked at Apple, and I have plenty of friends there. And I think that with education, this will sort of sort itself out. Obviously it makes as much sense to stop an NFT transfer as it does to not allow me to transfer money from my bank account or send PayPal. Like, none of that makes any sense. So they'll catch up. I really think it's probably lack of education more than something else. That said, I think that to Pascal's point, I think it's, if you really think at that big arc, right? I love what he said about it being about Web 1 was the PC, Web 2 was the phone, and Web 3 will be your wallet. And I love the example of the concert ticket as something that goes within that. When I was a kid, my concert ticket was a collectible that I pinned on my corkboard. And what did the internet do to us overall? On the internet, you are the product, right? And that's why your concert ticket for the past 20 years has been an advertisement that you throw away as soon as you get inside the venue and you don't need the ticket anymore. But in the future, it will be collectible again and you will have ownership of it and it won't have ownership of you, right? If that, printout has an advertisement on it, it owns you, not the other way around. And in the future, you will own your concert ticket again. I say concert ticket just because it's such an easy one to get your head around, but it's that for so many things.
I think an aha that was happening for me while I'm upstage watching this is that I'm looking at my own phone and I'm like, what do I have here, right?
I thought you had a Stax on the back of your phone.
Yeah, that's of course where my head goes because guess what's in here right now? I like about 1 trillion credit cards, my business accounts because I'm traveling for work, and my personal account, and this is nutsy. Then I have my ID, and then I have my loyalty cards. This is my coffee card and my smoothie card. And like, of course, all of this is literally just going to be digital. And I'm going to have a Stax. And that's the next product you guys need to make is an iPhone case that I can stack my Stax on here.
By the way, we made one, and I'm not super happy with it, but we'll see where we get to.
The experience officer needs it to have a better experience.
But it's exactly right.
But I'm like staring at my phone, I'm like, oh my God, of course. Like what an aha that I'm like, I carry all this stuff, I put it on my phone so I don't have to bring a purse around.
I thought Tony did a great job like explaining that on stage.
He did, but it's very organic, all of this, because it's funny because Tony had this vision and he presented to us and we said yes very quickly, but also this is what it was easy to say yes because this is what everybody was asking for. They wanted a bigger screen, etc., which is why, your haha moment is a bit like, yeah, but of course, because all of this feels very natural, which is why it's probably very good.
I think it's hard though, because I'll say when I came into the business 2 years ago, if I would put a ledger around my neck, people were like, what's wrong with you? Why are you putting your Bitcoin bag around your neck? And you're like, wait, it's so much bigger than that. This is so much bigger than like putting all of my life savings on, right? This is ultimately about securing, it's like what I carry around in my wallet, which is a credit card, an identity card, a membership card. It's like, it's absolutely everything. Now, of course, and by the way, I have a savings account, I have a checking account, I have a brokerage account, I've got a bunch of keys on my keychain, I've got a bunch of cards and shit in my wallet. Like, that's how we live. This is the way humanity works, So I think it's natural, but I think that there was a gap between sort of like the thinking about crypto and then the thinking about where kind of digital ownership goes. Like that's a bridge that had to be crossed.
Yeah, there's product first, product and experience first, and technology second. Crypto comes from engineers, and engineers have been solving very hard problems, and we owe them Bitcoin and we owe them blockchain technologies. But it's time that companies take the technology, but think about the product and the experience first. And if you think about crypto in general, the experience is not really good right now. The user interfaces aren't really good. It's not very intuitive. It's broken. It doesn't really connect really well with Web 2, et cetera, et cetera. And so we have to fix this collectively, and Ledger is taking a stab at this.
Thank you both so much for joining me.
Merci.
I think 20 seconds before the 20-minute mark, kept you on time. And really appreciate you both. I'm so happy to be here.
Appreciate you. I love
really
your show.
Exciting, and
Merci.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Overpriced JPEGs. If you liked this conversation, if you liked this episode, please go ahead and hit subscribe. It helps me out, it helps the show out, and it means you will get alerts and updates when we post new content. Thanks again.